Good evening from New York. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS As It Is. This evening, I am going to start off with the first of a five-part series of Jamaican youth in business. So, welcome to part one of five. I'd like to ask you to imagine a movement of self-sufficiency among young people in Jamaica. Imagine those who dare to challenge themselves and status quo, igniting the spirit of entrepreneurship among young Jamaicans. This spirit of entrepreneurship, to me, is there but in need of, of the right fuel, encouragement, and support in some form or the other. This evening, you will meet three amazing young entrepreneurs: Theo Smith from Great House Caterers, Doyen Williams, Daydrum Data Limited, Joni Ellis is from Little Helper Services. Sorry. I'm just going to jump right in and bring on Mr. Theo Smith. The young man next to me is Theo Smith. Theo, good afternoon and welcome to CWS As It Is.
Afternoon, how are you doing?
Thanks for your time, Theo, and welcome to CWS As It Is. I know you're a busy man right now, so I'm going to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about you and how you started this business.
All right, no problem. All right, so I'm Theo Smith, of course. I'm the chef and catering executive behind Great House Caterers. We actually started business in 2011. It was just the interest that I had for the catering world versus the restaurant world, where I had to mix. So I went to Las Vegas to a catering conference called Beta Source. I met a few industry professionals there, and I realized that definitely the catering world was the world that I wanted to be in. This is the industry that is a little bit more creative, and it was constantly changing, and that's something that I loved about the culinary industry generally. So I went off. I started Great House Caterers in 2011. I was the only person working. I was the one cooking, purchasing items. It has just developed and got much bigger. Now we have a team ranging from events from anywhere from around 8 persons or 2 persons to as far as 24 persons on an event.
So, how did you come up with the name Great House Caterers?
We're actually, all right, so where we're located, there is a great house near us in Chergan's Great House. So that's how we decided to work with that name, Great House Caterers. And at the time, I thought it was fitting to the theme that we wanted to work with, that elegance with regards to our events and everything like that. So, yes.
So our our audience is from all over the Caribbean and the world. So for those who don't know what Great House is, what is that?
All right, so it's actually an old great house, a historic location in Chergans in Kingston, Jamaica.
What were some of the main challenges you faced early in your venture, and do you still encounter them today?
All right, so some of the challenges I face, one is, I guess it's just a view that persons have of young entrepreneurs that normally see you starting up and they think it's a business that won't last for long or you're not too serious about it. So that's one of the things that I face when I was starting up slowly. But over time, as they realize the business progress and you grow, they get used to it. And of course, for me, it's, I would say, extra because I'm extremely young. So I got a few looks from both my customers as well as my suppliers. So it's something that I get used to over time, and after a while it goes away. Otherwise, it's just to get out there and get going. I mean, the catering industry, there are quite a few caterers in Jamaica, especially in Kingston and St. Andrew. So getting to go about those caterers for customers to select you is really, you have to be unique and you have to keep on pushing to go and get that attention and get as much customers as you need to get.
Theo, I want to ask you a quick question. If you could just adjust your screen so that there is more of you from the bottom, just or less space at the top. Right. No, I mean you don't have to move, but adjust the screen. So, right.
That's a little better.
Yeah, that's a little better. This is good.
All right.
Okay, so what are your immediate plans for your business?
All right, so we're actually currently looking to find a new location for us to fit in. It's our new home. We want customers to be able to come into our location on a daily basis, which currently isn't available for us. So that's one of our big things. And we also do want to start a series of events that we do monthly or quarterly for customers, new customers coming in to find out more about our menu items, as well as for existing customers to just enjoy some of the food items we have.
So how do people find you?
Okay, so they actually can find us on our website at www.ghcaterers.com. And they also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Same Great House Caterers, except for Instagram and Twitter, it's actually GR8 House Caterer. And we're also in the currently in the Yellow Pages, the Jamaica Yellow Pages, so you can find us online. You can Google us, you can get our information. And otherwise, persons find us through our different events and trade shows that we go through, and they'll meet us, and also referrals. So yes, we'll try to make sure we have a online presence.
You're a young thing. How long you started this business?
All right, so it's actually officially 5 years on August 30th this year. So
5 years. And you're only 22. So you're a 27-year-old young man in this catering business. What is the competition like?
There's actually some good competition out there. I definitely look up to a lot of them that when I started up to. So the competition varies. We have some good high-end caterers out there that are really great, and I love working with them. I love seeing the work that they do, and I do know there are competitors out there and our customers that will choose between them or myself. And then we do have other caterers that are more competition on the price end. That's a big thing, especially in the corporate world, where it's a competition of the price. So we have to work with caterers who are either very large in scale, so they can afford it with a bulk pricing, or we have to compete with even new caterers coming in who are just willing to just put their price even lower just to outdo you.
What keeps you going?
Definitely the feedback from our customers. That's one of a huge thing from the start for me, and that's actually why even willing to go in front of the customer, coming from a very shy personality, is a customer feedback. I mean, countless occasions where I'm out on the road and I'm even with my mother, just casually going through the supermarket, and someone completely random comes up and talks to my mother and say, you know, you have an amazing son. I see him on TV doing these cooking demonstrations. They see me at events and everything. And just the feedback there, feedback from my existing clients from the events, that really pushes me forward even more. Customers would want certain things, and their feedback, their enthusiasm, the passion that they see in me that I don't even notice as much, that really pushes me even more.
So here is this shy guy. You did mention shy just now. And you're in a field that requires you meeting with people and discussing prices and discussing what it is the customer wants. How did you get over this shyness?
That's a good question. It's just something over time. When I started, it was extremely hard to get used to it. But as I pushed myself, I realized as I pushed myself in the culinary world, as I did the demonstration, I was in the demonstration, not thinking about the crowd, but focusing on the food. And then I look up and then I'll see the crowd and I'm like, oh, okay. So after a while, getting used to it, it just slowly comes on even more and more. And of course, I know that I have to pull out of that shyness. So I push a little. Sometimes I don't push hard enough.
And Great House Caterers, where do you see this in 10 years? Okay, there you are. I think we lost you there for a moment. All right, so you're back with us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Where do you see yourself or your business in 10 years?
In 10 years, well, definitely the location is one thing, and just expanding ourselves throughout Jamaica, being a little bit more reputable in each and every parish. We have a lot of business going on in other parishes, especially St. James and St. Anne. So we're just trying to push a little bit more, especially for our wedding clients, and hopefully maybe a few another Caribbean island. Not too sure, but we'll see.
You'll get there. I like your spirit and your energy. You mentioned walking in the supermarket sometimes with your mother, and strangers will come up and congratulate you or compliment you. What were their reaction when they learned that you're going into business full time?
Well, my mother's reaction at first was like, "You sure you don't want to work a few more years?" Because it's something I actually wanted to do as I left university. And she's like, "No, you need to go and have some work experience." So when I did a year and I told her, she's like, "It's just a year though, you need some more time." And I'm like, "I need to do it." And she's like, "All right, whatever you do, I'm behind you." So I'm ready. She was very accepting of it, but she was just a little bit concerned. So after a while when it picked up, I mean, she looked back even now and she's like, "Wow, you've come a far way." And she's like, she's proud. She's really always there, and she's a huge supporter. So, and my father, of course, was a little bit concerned, like, "All right, do you want to do this? Are you sure? Do you understand everything about the business?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he was also there supporting, and proud for all the work that has come up so far.
For all the young people looking at this show tonight, admiring you and what you are doing, how important is it for the people close to you, like your parents and family, to buy into your idea?
It is definitely important for that support. Even if it's not your parents, you need someone behind you to sometimes. You do have downtimes. I mean, entrepreneurship, when you start off at first, it can be a very lonely road. So you need someone out there to just support you, whether it's a friend, spouse, whatever the case may be. You need someone to support you. But not to say that it's dependent on if they don't have their support, you can't succeed. But sometimes it is extremely, well, not sometimes, it is extremely helpful to have that support. You will have people out there saying, I mean, I did get a lot of that, it won't work. After 2 years, you'll go back to working. After 3 years, you're going to have to start finding a job and explain what you're doing for the past 2 years. I got lots of those, and it's just the encouragement of family and friends that kept saying, all right, go forward. And of course, even a year or 2 years after opening the business, I did have those moments where I'm like, is this going to work out? Is it going to reach 5 years? And it's like, just wanted to reach 5 years. I mean, after about 4 years, I was like, all right, there's no way this is going to stop anytime soon. So I'm not even worried. I mean, 5 years is just literally a few weeks away. So
awesome.
Not seeing it stop, I just see it move forward more and maybe into somebody else's hands.
Congratulations, Theo. And how did your friends, some of your friends, react when they found out you were either getting into business or they found out you're already in business?
They're excited. They're excited to know someone who's an entrepreneur. They're excited the fact that they know the passion that I had for the culinary arts. So they know it was something that I would definitely put my all into. So they're excited. They supported it all the way. For those persons who met me after I started my business, it wasn't anything new to them. From the get-go, they understand my whole workaholic attitude and everything like that. So they just know that I was passionate about my business, and they're glad to know.
In this competitive industry, and I'm sorry I have to keep referring to you as a young man, but this is what the program is about, young entrepreneurs. And here you are in a very competitive industry. What are 3 things you believe set you apart from your competitors? What are 3 things that someone who's thinking about hiring you should consider?
All right, so 3 things that set us apart. One of the things that we always try to do is to ensure customers have a culinary experience at their event. So we actually try to have as much interactive stations at the buffet line. We try to have live cooking station. We want customers not just have the food and eat it, but we want them to have that experience behind it, whether it's to see mac and cheese being created fresh and made for you, or pasta being created, whatever the case may be. We want them to have that experience. We don't want to just give them a salad. We want them to pick the individual items, know that it's organic greens we're using, know the toppings that we're going on. That's one of the things I would say sets us apart. The next thing is that the whole purchasing experience. We don't want it to be a hassle, especially for corporate clients or brides who they already have a busy schedule. They already have so many things going on for their event. The last thing that we want to do is to take up all their time trying to plan, go back and forth, letting them have to worry about what we're doing or how we're going to do it. So we try and outline everything from the start. This is what we'll do. This is how we're going to do it. So you don't have to worry about what we're going to do on our end. So that is also with regards to the customer service experience. So customer service experience, the culinary experience, and then of course we want to have a professional staff and we want to have unique menu items. So one of the things that I left the restaurant world for is that they have the same menu and they have to kind of keep the menu for a good while. We try and update our menu as often as possible, and especially for bigger events, we do customized menu. We don't want you to just go and select something that 20 other events have. We want to create something for you to have it at your event and everybody can say, we had that, we can't get it anywhere else, but remember it at, let's say, Jody Ann's wedding. So that's what we want to provide our clients, that unique experience, and of course, a hassle-free experience as well.
All right, Theo. You got me hooked, right? Here you are, Great House Caterers. You mentioned bigger events. Have you ever had an event that gave you pause, that sort of intimidated you, made you reconsider what you're doing? Has that ever happened?
Yes. We've had a few events, I guess, over time. As I say, like every year, we say there's that one event that pushed us to the limit, and we enjoy it. And in pretty much most cases, 90% of the cases, they worked out very well. We've had a few of those this year. This year is like a special year for us with regards to pushing that limit to what we think we can do. So It's intimidating. We worry and we're like, before I'm like a crazy person just thinking like, did we have everything perfectly? Do we know? And then we go through the event and afterward and I look back and I'm like, okay, I didn't have to lose so much hair before, but it worked out well.
And after being in business for a bit, 5 years, you're going to be touching the 5 year mark in what, a week or two, you said. How are you convinced, Theo, that you're cut out to be an entrepreneur?
Could you say that again?
How are you convinced that you're cut out to be an entrepreneur?
Well, for one, to be able to do it thus far and to be passionate about it, I know, I'm not sure about anyone else, but I know the whole entrepreneurial journey for me is something that I loved every step of the way. I can't see myself going in the next direction other than being an entrepreneur. I mean, I've never thought before of going in other industries, but since I've become an entrepreneur, I've looked into other business options outside of the culinary world, and still I could only see myself in the position of an entrepreneur. It's a great experience to have that control for one, and to be able to change so many lives between the person that you're working with, the suppliers you're coming from, and the customers. I mean, it's something that I don't regret anything that I've done. Even the failures that we've done, I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them. They've made us grow in so many ways. So I'm definitely, I just have that feeling that, yes, I need to be an entrepreneur and it's cut out for me.
You strike me as a man of faith, Theo, because you could not have gotten to where you are without faith, without belief in yourself. But then there's the human condition that plagues each and every one of us. Every now and then we are haunted by doubts and fears. So when you have your doubts and fears, when you're not talking to someone,
Yes.
when you're just talking with Theo, what are a few things you use to restart your engine, so to speak, to reboot Theo, to inspire and motivate you? What do you say to yourself?
Actually, that's a good question. I never normally find anything good to say to myself. I have those situations and I sit down and I try and be creative. I try and take my mind off a thing. I try and relax a little. But it's not normally the case that I find something on my own. I normally have to head to the direction, once again, of my customers. It's something random. I could go to work and not be in the best of moods, and I go to an event, and even not a customer say something to me, but a customer say something to one of my team members, and then I remember once again why I started this originally, and then that kind of brings me up back again. I mean, it's normally not me, and it's normally not in my control. Sometimes it's days, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it even go longer, and it's just something happens somewhere, and then it reminds me all over again why this all started and how important it is to me, basically.
If you could go back in time, if you could turn back the hands of time when you first started, what would you do differently?
It's a good question. I guess I'm not too sure I would want to change anything completely, but I guess I would have started a little bit differently, or I would have started off with a more of an entrepreneurial mindset. When I started as a chef. And I thought that, okay, I'm opening a catering business. I just need to be a chef. And that was it. So I did that for a few months, and I mean, it worked out. You're small, you're starting off, of course it's going to work. But if I started out with an entrepreneurial mindset, that would have helped speed up things a little bit more in the first stages. So that was one thing. That's probably the only thing I would have done differently.
And what advice would you give to yourself if you could relay only one piece of advice to your former self?
One piece of advice. Don't procrastinate and always push forward your idea.
What do you, if you look back at Theo 5 years, the Theo 5 years ago when you first started, and the Theo today, would you say they're different in terms of business?
Yes.
Yes. So what have you discovered about yourself that over the 5 years?
I think what I've discovered of myself. Wow.
Yes, as an entrepreneur, let me refine that. As an entrepreneur, what have you discovered about yourself that you didn't know before?
I guess my patience. I didn't know I have so much patience.
I can just imagine. Have you ever done something for a client and they didn't like it, and you know, you're standing there watching all this waste, and has that ever happened to you?
Not often, though. We've had a few occasions where that has happened. Yes.
How do you handle that?
Generally, well, for me personally, I just hold it in, and I mean, of course, everyone has their views. So sometimes I just have to remember that it's a customer, for one, and for two is I might have a particular view, but they don't. So I try and listen in as much as possible of what they have, and I think about it. One of the things that I've learned over time, especially from my parents, is to not judge someone's opinion on something, because once again, it's their opinion versus mine. And I realize sometimes even myself 5 years ago versus now, my opinion then and now would be different. So I realize I take their views, I think about it. I'll probably sit down at home and I'll think about it for days, and then after a while I come to think, all right, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but nonetheless, my opinion doesn't matter, because more importantly, I'm trying to satisfy my customers. So we have to see how best we can do it for them.
What can you tell us about your first business transaction? And Theo, your first check.
All right, first business transaction. I wouldn't say it's necessarily first, but it's first event. Like, we had some orders that weren't really anything much. But our first event was, it was something my best friend, when I started, it was myself alone in the business, and my best friend came over to actually help out with our first event. And I've used as basically a case study for all my team members coming in. It was something where the event was confirmed the day before, and it was a 3-day series of events. And it was confirmed the day before. I was in a meeting until almost night, and I had to purchase those items in the middle of the night. I had to go home, I had to go prepare. I had to get up back early. Well, not get up back. I had to finish preparing and get ready to go out to the first order. Anyway, it was the case that they had a breakfast and they had a lunch and they had a coffee break after. And I went through that entire 3 days, basically of 1 or 2 hours sleep each day. It was a case that I was purchasing for the next day, and I was preparing, and I was going out, meeting with customer at the event, and I finished that, and I went back again, purchased for the next day, and it continued for the 3 days. And it was an experience that I'll never forget. It was crazy, and at that point I realized I cannot do this alone. Like, there's no way this can continue like this. So
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely an eye-opener where I realized I needed a team. It was definitely where I realized at that point that, okay, I plan to start this on my own, and I plan to raise a lot of funds on my own, but this wasn't going to work years down the line. I mean, that 3 days alone was so much on me. I mean, like, days later, I was still feeling the effects of it. But it was a great experience. It turned out to be an excellent event. And that customer is actually still with us. And I was so proud of it. And looking back at what I had to do then for my first event and what I have to do now for events is like, wow. Nothing like...
What is the most valuable asset of your team?
I can't say there's one person valuable in my team.
No. The most valuable asset of the team, the whole team. What is your team? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you say
what is the most valuable asset of your team? What does the team bring to the table that you value the most, or value a lot?
I would definitely say it's their passion.
Passion
push it forward. Mm-hmm. Because we could give them all the instructions we give them, but even if they just follow the instruction, if they don't have the passion, it doesn't push us forward as much as we need to, and it doesn't bring much value to the business. I mean, I could give instructions and you do the order, and a customer sees and they just get the order. Once again, it's that passion that push forward. It's the same thing that we say with our live cooking at events. It's a passion that the chef need to have there. They can't just cook the order and ignore the guests in front of them and put out the order. They need to show the guests what they're doing and talk to the guests and find out if the guests like it and what they want in there. So they need to have that passion and that personality now to come forward to the guests and basically to anyone in the company.
These are the times when I regret that it's only half hour for these shows. When I am confronted or I meet very interesting and passionate young people like yourself, Theo. But I want to push through a few more questions in the short space of time we have. You had this discipline when for your first transaction, and you 3 days you went hardly much sleep and so on. You're a young man, Theo. Where did this discipline come from?
That's a good question. I guess it's just my experience in the culinary world. I'm used to working 16-hour shifts and working long hours. My previous job, I was a supervisor, so I know I had to be there for the team. I know I had to push everyone a little bit further. And of course, as a supervisor, I needed them to know that I was willing to work the 16 hours, so you should be able to work the 8 or 9 hours that you have to work. Otherwise, the passion and the drive came from the fact that I had my business, and at that point in time, at such an early stage, I couldn't let anything fail. Because if I let anything fail, it would just prove to everyone who said that, maybe this is not a good idea, I would just prove them that they're right. So I needed to prove that, all right, no matter what, it's me alone, I have to do this, I have to go forward. I don't want to hear anyone say, okay, you want a job now, maybe this isn't working out for you.
Do you think that entrepreneurship is something that is in your blood, or is it something that can be learned?
I know for me, definitely something in my blood. Overall, I would generally believe that it's something in your blood, but I do believe you can learn some good skills that is needed in entrepreneurship.
Theo, time cheated us here this afternoon, but I will go to the chat room. Deborah said, this young man is amazing. Do you intend to expand to other Caribbean countries? That's a question.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. And Barry, what do you enjoy about being a chef?
I definitely enjoy the arts and science of being a chef. I mean, culinary world is just mixed with so many things. You can do one dish and look at it in a more scientific view, mixing certain ingredients together, as well as look at artistry behind it. I definitely love to, if you want to say, play with my food. So, I mean, I'm a carver with fruit and vegetable carving, so that is how the whole artistic side comes out for me.
Theo, you must come again sometime, because we have only just scratched the surface, my brother. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.